Don't tell me there's a second.
I never thought that I would be responsible for the creation of my most powerful enemy.
I can see you, Suture. Show yourself. Suture.
I've been waiting for you to get distracted so I can stab you in the back.
I uncovered your plan. The spells in this chamber, they're designed to kill you if something goes wrong. You've been preparing for this outcome from the start, am I right?
How very perceptive. But you didn't think I would make it easy, did you? I won't let you win. You need me alive. You want to use me to close the wound, but I can destroy myself before you have a chance.
Arilu, this is madness, an act of evil, and it's absolutely pointless. You won't accomplish anything. Is this really how you wish to go? Don't do this.
You're right. I won't gain anything from this. So what now?
Time passed 5 minutes.
You
Someone
are
just
stronger
died.
than I could have anticipated. As your creator, I should be proud to be defeated by the one I have imbued with power. Is there any higher praise? But I'm tired. You won't hear me pleading. Let us finish this experiment here and now.
The defeated shadow rises and stands still at the very edge of the Worldwound. Its gaze is focused on the violet flames of the rift. The shadow says nothing, but you can sense the direction of its thoughts. You take one last step into the yawning chasm. Together, for what has been made whole for so long must come apart at last, and only the wound fire can finally free you from each other. Requires a legend, Mythic part. You're right, I'm stronger than you could have anticipated. I didn't need the power you gave me to run, and I won't need the soul you corrupted to close the wound. The shadow turns to look at you, without menace or fear, simply waiting.
Indeed. You need neither power nor soul. That's right, because you have my soul to sacrifice. Isn't that what you mean?
No, I won't even require your life. To close the wound, one needs to split the soul of Keen too, correct? That's almost exactly what I did, and I'm still alive.
To sever your connection completely. Now I understand. But it will kill him.
Spare Arilu or kill Arilu. I don't need your life, Arilu. Do what you will with it. I will close the wound myself. All it takes is a step beyond the edge.
Is that supposed to be merciful? Why would I want this life? Why, when everything I've lived for will be gone?
I'm walking away and leaving everything as it is. It requires a legend mythic path. Step into the wound with a shadow. Just a step beyond the edge. Jesus Christ. In this strange space that you found yourself in, the shadow takes the form of a human teenage boy. I'm tired, will you let me go? Part with the shadow. Kill the shadow once and for all. Do you know where we are? We must be inside the wound. Or maybe inside ourselves or both. I don't know. What happens now? You wanna be free of me and I wanna go. Our bond is almost gone now. There's one last thread left. Once it breaks, you won't be connected anymore. And the Worldwound will cease to exist. After all, Golarion and the Abyss are stitched together by the same thread that linked your soul and me. Where do you wanna go? I don't know, almost no one before. Now I'm someone again. I'm not a living soul. Where will I go? Even I don't know. Part with the shadow. I hope you're headed for the river of souls and Pharasma judgment. I promise to remember you, but that is oblivion, so I'll forget everything soon. I'll become planar essence, or maybe I'll be reborn as some other worldly creature. But I won't remember. Either way, my time is up. I'm going, I'm fading, and you're now free. I can't believe it's over. I can't believe it's over. If it's over, knowing this game. Life and death, destiny and great deeds, answers to mysteries, the search for one true path. The mind can comprehend all of this, and then such concepts can be written down as a sequence of formulas, a series of lines, a chain of thought. Still, a moment always comes when it is time to wrap up, to reach a conclusion, to put a period at the end of the last sentence. The impossible rift, the bleeding wound that had tormented all of Golarion for 100 years, was finally healed. In a strange space beyond the horizon of the world, the commander parted with his shadow at last. Who else would have so rashly renounced his power for the sake of the faint idea of being himself? But the commander made his choice and stuck to this path, with a doggedness even I cannot help but respect, no matter how much grief and anger that decision brought. The Fifth Crusade may not have lasted long, but in that short time, Dresden became the commander's city, his bulwark, his citadel. Unsurprisingly, he remained the ruler of the city and the surrounding lands after the spectacular victory at Threshold. As the leader of the Crusaders, the commander won their loyalty and obedience, even in the Crusade's darkest hours. The commander found ways to restore the army's supply lines. His military acumen was beyond question. Under his leadership, the divided, poorly trained Crusader forces were reforged into an invincible army. Due to the success of the commander's diplomatic strategy, by the end of the war, Mendev's true political center was Dresden, not Nerozia. After gaining the support of foreign rulers and finding allies in the capital, Dresden became the shining example of new Mendel, one that was nurtured by the commander's ideas. The significance and accomplishments of the Crusade were so great that even a century after the end of war, Dresden retained its prominence on the map of Avistan. The commander's diplomatic, military and administrative talent turned the fortress into a key political player. Shortly after the war, Queen Galfrey abdicated the throne of Mendev and departed Nerosian to spend the rest of her long life with her beloved, the one who helped her see that there was more to life than beauty. Galfrey took up residence in Dresden, but for long afterward envoys from Nerosian strove to persuade her to return. Their entreaties were always met with a polite but firm refusal. Quite a number of Mendavians wanted to see the commander of the Fifth Crusade inherit the throne. The war stones from the chain that once guarded the borders of Mendev were carefully disassembled, one by one. The angels that had been trapped inside returned to heaven to heal their wounded spirits and prepare for new battles against evil. The victory over the Worldwound changed many things. Switch this so you can actually see what's happening. The victory over the Worldwound changed many things, not just on Golarion but in the Midnight Isles as well. Nocticula spent many days pondering the words of a certain young and fearless prophet. Before long, the Lady in Shadow openly renounced her realm and named herself the Redeemer Queen. She became a Redeemer Queen. This revolt against her own demonic nature transformed Nocticula, severed her ties to the Abyss and brought her to Elysium. There, upon creating a realm named Midnight's Pellet, the Redeemer Queen attained divine power and became the patroness of exiles. The now vacant throne was instantly seized by Shamira the Ardent Dream. However, her power could not compare to the might of Lady in Shadow. The Midnight Isles, which had become a tempting prize for many demons, were plunged into chaos. The commander celebrated his victory over Areshkagal. Little did he know that some demon lords go as far as forfeiting their own life to achieve their ends. The mask of the inscrutable Areshkagal remained in the possession of the commander of the 5th Crusade until the very end. He refused to or could not find the strength to discard the sinister item, and shortly after the Battle of Threshold he began disappearing for days at a time, then suddenly returning, unable to recall what happened to him. What? The Demon Lord Baphomet suffered defeat, the Worldwound was closed and the convenient passage to Golarion was sealed along with it. Baphomet shifted his attention to the realms of the other Demon Lords. A cell of Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth was soon discovered in Alushnira. The Demon Lord Discari suffered a defeat. He bided his time, continuing to plot his invasion of Golarion, and after that of Heaven itself. The cultists that remained in Golarion went mad, one after another, tortured by the nightmarish dreams their lord sent to them. Tirabades were adamant about retiring from military service, leaving it all behind and escaping together, but Urge and Eaglewatch business forced them to stay for a week, then for a month, then for many years. Even as Anivia cursed their lot, however, her eyes will shine with pride, for she was always the first to admit that Tirabet was not the kind of person who just up and retire. The hand of the inheritor, who had gone into voluntary exile, spent much time among mortals, trying to gain a better understanding of their fickle nature. Somewhere on the roads of Golarion, the angel trail went cold. A rumor has it that he intentionally went into hiding to avoid both old friends and surviving enemies, and that he now lives somewhere in the guise of a callow mortal youth eager to absorb other people's wisdom. Having rediscovered his own story, the storyteller rejected the goddess' proposal. Yeah, 7 weeks. I know. A lot. A lot. Where was I? He was celebrated as a great historian and rightfully held the position of Dean of History faculty at Arcanamirium, the most renowned academy in Absalom. Another 40 years passed before his age caught up with him, and it was his turn to appear before the Lady of Graves. Finian, a Pathfinder who also happened to be a talking weapon, continued his travels in the hands of many warriors, seasoned and otherwise. Throughout the following centuries, he was lost in a battle on a number of occasions, only to be found again in some fantastical treasure room on the other side of Golarion. Once again, Scylla heard the call of the open road. Even a valiant paladin can be prone to self-doubt, and after everything that had happened to her, Scylla wanted to sort out her conflicting thoughts and emotions on her own. Once the war ended, Camellia grew bored and irritable. Shortly afterwards, on a moonless night, she vanished. That event was preceded by a futile attempt to drive a dagger into the former commander's heart. About a month later, an assassin by the name of Mireia arrived in Varisia. She had few things in common with the missing woman apart from a fondness for cutting the hearts out of her victims. Horgus Guerm never saw his daughter again. After the end of the 5th Crusade, he sold his estate and left for Cheliax, where he successfully married, thus continuing the Guerm line. Having properly fulfilled his duty to the mongrels and his surprise avoided death, Len was suddenly faced with a choice: what to do with his life now that it wasn't going to end anytime soon. His hesitation did not last long, and just a few months later he went on a sea voyage to see the world he had saved. After the victory, Ember simply sat for a long time, staring at the tongues of flame dancing in her hands. Her new powers frightened her. The awe-struck redeemed were ready to hang on her every word, and that frightened her even more. She left without saying goodbye to anyone and continued her endless wayfaring along the roads of Golarion, helping the distressed and punishing evildoers. Many worshipped her as a saint, but she would always respond with, "Please, I'm just an ordinary girl." Nenio, soon after the war, the tireless researcher of all things researchable, embarked on a new journey. She had a sudden urge to know how much time it would take to visit every nation on Golarion. She returned after a year and a half with a pile of notes, which she promptly handed over to her assistant. After all, someone had to help her compile the entries for the first volume of the Encyclopedia Golarionica. It only made sense for her assistant to help, given that one of the entries was dedicated to him, the commander of the 5th Crusade who had made Golarion history. Dira Narandea embraced his new life, one that was free of the other. He became more mature, his smile grew colder, and his choice of diversions more elaborate, and he acquired an imperious streak. Inquisitor WotR blood seemed to have let darkness into Diran's soul, or had it always dwelled there? Whatever the case, in that darkness he was free and happy as never before. He never lost his respect, or should that be, his fondness, for the commander, and would often visit him in dressing. To his own surprise, Woljib Jefto became a war hero. Esteem and fame were shortly followed by great wealth. He finally got rich, Woljib. The tiefling did not let his newfound fortune turn his head, but chose to invest the money in several profitable ventures and one charity for street urchins. Within a few years, his signature style came to include a top hat, a cane, and a bit of a belly. There was a lot of talk in the taverns of Absalom about the time soon after the end of the war when Woljib appeared in the city in the company of Count Diran Arandea. It remains unclear whether Diran treated the tiefling as a wayward younger brother or a court jester, but he took pleasure in showing him the world. The third person in the group was rumored to be the commander himself. After the victory, Sociel returned home, now a famed crusader hero. He humbly officiated at the temple of Shailin, painted, grew sweet-smelling fruits, and made the best wine in the region. His former kindly smile returned less and less often. He avoided talking about the war, and when people asked about his brother's fate, he just curtly replied that Trevor had been killed by demons. Regiel wrote a treatise on waging war against the demons, both a practical manual and a philosophical exhortation. And once that was done, he succumbed to the bleaching completely. He was posthumously reinstated in his order and buried with honors in the officers' cemetery. His treatise was used in all future wars against the Abyss by mortals, angels, and devils alike. Before he died, he managed to send a letter to the commander. Did it contain sincere farewells or a list of directives? Impossible to say. No one was privy to the contents except the recipient. After the victory over the Worldwound, Greybor did not return to his former profession. After all, the war had shown him the gold was not a good enough reason to kill. Greybor went wandering, and every time he encountered dishonorable, unscrupulous behavior, he would not deny himself the pleasure of a confrontation. In Avistan, the brave dwarf was reputed to be a noble knight-errant, but whenever he heard such a thing, he would just let out a good-natured chuckle. He simply enjoyed a good fight. Arushali had changed her nature, completely ridding herself of evil, but she would not dare to live among mortals. She took up a residence in a small house away from their settlements. Shortly afterward, rumors began to spread. Some said there was a kind of sorceress living in a cottage, or perhaps a reclusive saint, and people who would come to her asking for help. She never refused anyone, and in time she earned their trust and friendship. What is this shit?
And what of me, the writer of these words? The half-demon witch known as the architect of the Worldwound.
Arilu survived in my playthrough, by the way. Who the fuck is that?
I was defeated. The victor spared my life in a gesture that was not quite a boon, not quite charity. I was left without hope, without a chance of finding a purpose again. I lived out my remaining days in an isolated cottage, far from everyone, needed by none, discovered by none. I have recounted the story of my life for you, Pharasma, Lady of Graves. Not only of my life, but of the commander's also. I believe the tale of such an illustrious figure would pique even a goddess's curiosity. Now you know everything. I await your verdict, goddess.
So, all that narration, okay. This is the story of Arilu Warlash, by the way. She explains everything how it happened to Pharasma, which means that Arilu died, okay? Silence hangs over the boneyard. The Lady of Graves is waiting her decision, and it seems the entire universe is holding its breath, awaiting her pronouncement. Who would have dared to break a silence so absolute? Intervene. Though you are no longer here, your heroic deed entitles you to say in this trial. I appeal to your mercy. The planes have suffered enough. Do not add to the evil already wrought with yet another act of evil. I appeal to your mercy. Of all the gods, Yomedea was the only one to fight against the Worldwound. Even you, Pharasma, stood by and did nothing. Doesn't that suggest that the Worldwound was not so great a threat to the universe, and Arilu crimes were not as heinous as claimed? I appeal to your sense of justice. Great evil deserves a commensurate punishment. I appeal to your sense of justice. The world the gods created exists in a delicate balance. Arilu Warlash attempted to overturn the balance, which represents a direct challenge to you, Lady of Graves. I'm gonna go with Lore Religion. I picked a perfect character for this final thing. Appeal to your mercy. Spare. I appeal to your mercy. Of all the gods, Yomedea was the only one to fight against the Worldwound. Even you, Pharasma, stood by and did nothing. Doesn't that suggest that the Worldwound was not so great a threat to the universe, and Arilu crimes were not as heinous as claimed? Your words ring out in the silence. They're heard, considered, and given their due weight.
The laws of the universe have existed for millennia. They are incontrovertible, but even they allow the decider of fate some degree of influence over the verdict. You wrought great evil, while it stemmed from the evil that was done to you. Your actions far exceeded it. Your soul is dark, and there is only one place for you in the universe. And yet, the one whom you harmed most of all now appeals to me on your behalf. I shall send you to the Maelstrom, the plane on the edge of the world. A place to which the gods' gazes do not stray. There you will find yourself. Or you will perish in the whirlwind of chaos that is your soul. So be it.
Holy shit, what on earth if she really hates her, hey? This was the polite judgment, alright? Imagine the other way.
Now you, the mortal who has risen so high as to stand boldly in the presence of the goddess of fate. You have done the impossible, and you will be remembered as long as this universe exists. Go, live out the rest of your life. I look forward to tales of your future deeds.
Pharasma prolonged their life, goddammit. Pharasma prolonged their lives as a legend. So, you live longer as a legend than as any other mythic path. It turns out mortal is the best way. Man. That's it. Molim. Aha. Ajde. Aha. Ajde. Guys, I need to get out. I finished just on time, goddammit. People, it was a fucking blast. It was a blast. Really, it was. Although that final part was really fucked up. But what can you do? I still believe that Kenabres was the best out of all, you know. It was a huge challenge. We did all fights on both hard and unfair. I'll definitely play this game when a lot of patches come, okay? The next game is gonna be Wasteland 3. So what I'm gonna do next, I might do some builds for my YouTube channel, we'll see if I have will to do it, that's the first thing. Because I need to create mercs and test them out. And I will do a review for the game. But the next stream is gonna be with Wasteland 3. And all of its DLCs. That's what I wanna play next. All in all, the game was great. I want them to patch the game, I want them to fix the game, I want to see those DLCs, and I want to play a perfect version of this game. To have another run immediately, I'd rather wait, at least for a month or two. But all in all, this was the longest game I played in my life, by far. I don't know if I'll take a day off, if I'll stream tomorrow. I really don't have a fucking clue, to be honest. I spent 374 hours, 375 hours in a game. 40 out of 65 achievements unlocked. Because I switched difficulties, I haven't received the achievement. God damn it. For unfair. When you switch difficulties, you don't receive achievement. But at least I'll have a goal on a second run. It was a blast. It was really a blast. Okay, what I'll do, I'll also release all of those boss fights starting from tomorrow on my YouTube channel. I need to cut and edit them, but I'll release them all. From the hand of the Inheritor to Areshkagal to all of these disgusting fights. And the next stream is gonna be Wasteland 3. People, it's 9 AM. I need to get out to collect some stupid package. I just received a phone call, so I'll need to end. Guys, thanks for watching. And I'll be seeing you back soon, I guess. Check the YouTube channel now. I'll release a lot of new videos over there in the next few days. The next stream, Wasteland 3. Could happen tomorrow. If not, then in 2 days from now. That's it, people. See you back soon.